most people fail at achieving their goals because they focus on the result instead of the process.
Before we dive into today's episode, I have some exciting news I need to share. If you're a business owner or professional or entrepreneur looking to skyrocket your growth through podcast creation, video production, or public relations support, we've got you covered. Connect with our team at Growth Stack Media. We're here to help you grow faster and more affordably. Visit growthstackmedia.com today to book a free consultation or reach out through our contact details in the show description. We can't wait to help you make your business even more badass. Today, we have a very special guest here on Badasses in Tech. We have Mike Breeze. He's a nationally recognized behavioral change expert, best-selling author, success coach, and the founder of Made for Success, which we'll be able to learn a little bit more about that today. He holds certifications spanning from Neuro-Linguistic Programming, Maxwell Leadership Coaching, behavioral change, and a ton more. He's also passionate about helping emerging leaders reach their full potential, which is very much why we are so excited to have you on today, Mike. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So, Mike, tell us really quick, how did you get started?
Yeah, and here's the thing, Summer. I don't know if we have enough time to dive into all of that. So I will get you the cliff notes. I remember those from high school days. So in college, my professor, psychology professor, gave us an assignment over Christmas break. And he said, I want you to go and interview somebody that has reached a goal. Maybe they overcome something, maybe they, whatever it was. Don't stress out too much about it, but I want you to find somebody and I want you to interview them. Just ask how they did it. And and I got thinking, well, gosh, I don't know anybody, and then I remembered, I thought, my mom, she used to smoke growing up. And I watched her go through this process. She tried everything to quit. Nothing worked. So I remember I returned home and I said, Mom, listen, I've got to interview you. It's for, one of my college classes. How did you ever quit smoking? Because, she tried the patch. She tried the gum. She, I think at one point she put a rubber band around her wrist and would snap it every time she wanted a cigarette, which left a little bruise around her wrist, every time she held the cigarette, which is cute. But she told me, she said, it all came down to one thing. Now, there's two stories, the one that I heard originally and then the one that she's told me most recently. So I don't know which one. The end result is the same. She says, your father come to me and said, listen, you can't quit. You've tried to quit. It's not going to happen, but I'll make a bet. Now, I don't know what the stakes were in this bet, but basically it was just a bet. And she's so stubborn. Maybe that's how I come up with the G.O.A.T method. I don't know. But she's so stubborn that she quit. Now, the other story that I'd heard was she was tucking me into bed and she bent down to give me a kiss and I pushed back and I said, Mama, don't kiss me anymore because your breath smells too bad.
Oh.
Regardless, she told me both of those. She said, listen, from that day forward, I told myself I will never smoke again. Now, I know that's no grand story, but here's what was special to me. How can this happen? I saw her struggle all this time. What was the magic? What was the secret sauce? How did she acquire that? And so when I returned back to college, I started studying everything I could from, like you said, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, spaced repetition, autogenic training. I'd go to the seminars. I started studying John Maxwell, how people achieve success. And from that moment on, I started working with people specifically to start out with to help them quit smoking.
That's awesome. And I know how difficult that is. I mean, I had family members who similar experience. I've tried to quit. I've done the patch. I even had certain family members, almost get hospitalized and still they're like, oh, I love you so much. I love my life so much, but why can't I quit? And I think you said, it might not be a big goal or it might not be a big story, but it makes sense now that we're talking, your passion about behavioral change. And if you think about the concept of quitting a habit or starting a new healthy habit. It's all about the behavioral change. And, even just some of the habits I've had, like I used to bite my nails, something awful. And something happened. Well, I was getting married. So in my mind, I was like, I need to have really nice nails. Like, I got to stop biting my nails. So it is interesting. You mentioned maybe that competitive, like that bet that really kind of pushed your mom over the edge. I'm sure there are different factors that really resonate with the individual that just overnight, like, okay, I'm not going to pick up that cigarette again, or I'm going to put some nasty stuff on my nails. So the next time I go to bite, I'm like, ugh, spitting it out. So.
Right. And everybody knows somebody that's had that. And all of a sudden they make a behavioral change. They, whatever it is. And it's like, one day it wasn't working and then one day it just worked. And so I thought, like everybody, what's the shortcut? What's the secret sauce? I've got to know. And that really kind of started my path.
Well, have you found the shortcut? Is there a shortcut?
Everybody wants it and we want it right now. And I'm glad you asked. Here's the thing. There is no secret to success. You're not going to wake up one day and walk across your yard and trip and fall into a big pile of success. It doesn't happen by accident. It's not going to happen that way. The secret is, if there was a secret, and we'll talk more about this here in a minute, it's the process. There's no secret to success, but there is a process. And once we understand that, everything else becomes clear. And I think one of the problems when it comes to goal setting, or the way I'd rather say it is goal achievement, is we want it simple. And for lack of a better way, we've dumbed it down. And we say, all you have to do is write your goals down. That's all you have to do. And then everything else is going to happen. Well, it doesn't work that way. You and I both know that.
Right.
But that's what we want to hear because that's pretty simple. And the process is simple, but it's not easy. But we want easy, but it's not that way. It does take some effort. And so that's kind of how I developed the G.O.A.T method. Everybody I've worked with since 2001, everybody has done 4 things. And so that's what I've compiled down. And I said, listen, you have to do these 4 things if you want to be successful. And everybody has done it that does reach their success, whether they know it or not. And so that's what I talk about.
So what are these 4 things? I got to get my notebook out and start writing them down.
Yeah. So there's 4 things. Okay. Now you're probably familiar, as well as all of your listeners that are listening to us today, the S.M.A.R.T method, the S.M.A.R.T goal setting method. We've probably all heard that. Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. Let's look at the S.
Okay.
Specific. When you hear that, what are you thinking? What do I need to be specific on? For most people, it's, well, I need to be specific on my goal. The more specific we can be about the goal, the better. So an example would be weight management. If you just say, I need to lose some weight. Well, you're probably not going to lose much weight because you're not specific enough. But if you say, I need to lose 17 pounds by next, May, because I need to fit into this outfit and I know that I can do that, now we can develop a plan around it. So we've got to be specific. But the problem is, if you're just specific on your goal, that's not enough. There's actually 6 things you have to be specific. So in the G.O.A.T method, the G stands for get specific, but there's 6 things under that we have to be specific on. Number 1, you do need to be specific on your goal. You've got to know what it is that you want. The second thing is you've got to be specific. Why is it important to you? It doesn't matter who else it's important to. You see, a lot of times I had a lot of people would come to me to quit smoking because their spouse wanted them to quit smoking, not because they wanted to quit. So why is it important to you? And we really have to look internally. For some people, like my mom, it was her kids. But what's the driving force for you? The second thing, or the third thing, I'm sorry, is, and this really is one that I think a lot of people look over, What skills and knowledge will I need? What skills and knowledge will I need specifically to acquire this goal? The best example I give is with weight management. So people say, well, it's quite simple. I already know what I need to do. I need to eat less and work out more. But what if you understood how your metabolism worked? What if you went to the doctor and understood, oh, I have a medical condition that's keeping me from reaching this goal, but maybe with certain medication, I can get that in check, and then we can start working on this. What skills and knowledge do you need to reach your goal? And by the way, if you don't need any additional skills or knowledge to reach your goal, you're not stretching yourself near far enough. And so that throws a lot of people off as well. And I've got these written down here because I don't want to miss one. The brain starts working the moment we're born and stops the moment we start speaking. So I've got my notes here. Another one, and this one isn't the fun one, but I think it's extremely important. Again, another one most people overlook. What obstacles are you going to face?
Yeah.
So let's go back to smoking. So say you take a lot of smoke breaks with your best friend at work. Well, how are you going to handle that? What are you going to do instead of that? Maybe you smoke every day after eating breakfast or whatever it may be, every time you're stressed. So what obstacles are you going to face? Now, we're going to actually find the action later to these, but we need to identify all the obstacles, or at least most of them. You're not going to find them all, but you got to be prepared for that. The next one is, what people should you surround yourself with? Jim Rohn says it best. How many times have we told somebody our goals and they shoot us down? You don't have a doctorate. You can't do this. You can't do that. But it's so important, even with weight management, to surround ourselves with like-minded people that have similar goals, or they're at least goal-oriented and goal-minded. And then the last one, under the get specific, what actions do you need to take? We've all heard of the 80-20 rule. 80% of your results come from 20% of your actions. So we got to whittle down what actions specifically. If you're in sales, what action is going to get you more sales? Is it making more phone calls, sending more email, or is it playing on social media? So we got to get specific. So, and that's just the G.
Wow. I mean, that is such good advice, because to your point, everyone knows SMART. And I talk about this all the time with my peers and on this podcast. It's the first thing that's skipped over, glossed over. If you're a professional and maybe you have a boss or a manager, they tell you to do something, you're probably just going to go and do it before you take a minute and say, well, what's the goal? What specific outcome are we wanting to achieve out of this? Do I actually have to do this, or is it just going to be busy work, or is it going to fall in that 80% kind of time block where really I should be focusing my time on something completely different? So I love that. And what you said about the skills and knowledge, I'm also hugely into surrounding yourself with people that know more about something than you do, right? Or like you said, if there is a specific thing that you need and you're like, nah, I don't need anything new. I don't need any new skills or knowledge. Well, then you, just by answering that alone, you do. Like you don't know everything. It's impossible for one person to know every single thing in the world. So I love that. I think that's so helpful. And I could see where your clients, since all these years, have used that as kind of their rubric for success. It makes a lot of sense.
Thank you. Yeah. And that's just to get specific. There's no silver bullet. There's a process, and I walk people through the process. You're not going to do this alone, but we have to open up the mind. And like you said, if you're the smartest person in the room or in your group, find another group. It's easier. One thing they teach you in lifeguarding school is it's easier to pull someone down than it is to pull them out. And so you want to be the person everybody's lifting up, and the conversations change. That's what I love about surrounding yourself. A lot of times we have the mindset that we grew up with.
Yeah.
If my parents made X amount of dollars, Well, that's kind of the limits, that I have on myself too, for a lot of people. But when you start hanging around people at different organizations, maybe that are more successful,
Right.
those conversations change and you start seeing different opportunities and you start seeing different books that they're reading and you're thinking, oh, this is the path I need to take and maybe I need to look into this. But please don't get confused.
Yeah.
Knowledge does not equal power.
So true.
Knowledge plus action equals power. We all know people that have full of knowledge, maybe they graduate top of the class, but if you look at their life right now, they're not living up to their potential, we'll say. So we have to take the action as well.
Yeah, that's so true as well. And the people that you surround yourself, and especially in those younger years, I had teachers and professors in college. I was in journalism, communication, and I'll never forget it was my capstone, senior year. We're all just like racing to the finish line, so hungry to get that first job or to just get out in the world. And my professor at the time said, everyone in this room, you'll make $30,000 a year, and that's your max. And I started sweating because I spent double that in college fee. You know what I mean? So how can this person say something so just matter of fact? And luckily, that stuck in my head, but luckily I was like, there's no way, not for me. I'm not gonna, that's not gonna be for me. And I did similar to what you are describing, connecting with CEOs or really the companies that I'm working for, trying to get in their head. Literally, if I'm in the room with them, because my profession is PR marketing. So you spend a lot of times with the CEOs or the senior leaders at a company to get the sound bites, get their stories. Yeah. So every time I had the opportunity to go in their office, I kind of looked around. What books are you reading? What type of certifications do they have? Did they go to did they get the master's degree? Some of them barely graduated high school, didn't need that formal education, and they're very successful. So it is so important what you're saying. If you're not hearing what you want to hear, go find it elsewhere. And also surround yourself with people who you are aspiring to be. I love that so much.
Yeah. And it's so true that we listen to other people's limits so often that they place them on us. And it's sad to me. And, there's a simple process. One thing that I really hate, especially today, and we talked about this earlier, is there's so much garbage out there that says, just go hustle, just go hustle, just go hustle. Here's the problem. If you're hustling, but you're doing the wrong things, you're always going to get the wrong results.
Right.
And so I think a lot of people in the goal setting realm, they have what I call assumed knowledge as well. And because that's part of their life, when they teach it, they assume people know all these little in between the line nuggets.
Right.
And so what I do, listen, I grew up in Southern Oklahoma. I am a simple guy. But when I teach anything, I grew up in martial arts. But when I teach martial arts, I literally teach it. I don't care how old you are, but I'm teaching it like you're 6 years old.
The beginner.
Because I go in with the mentality that you don't know anything. And I don't want you to think that I'm belittling you.
Right.
But so many people don't know the little in between, the big, bold things that, corporate America tells us, write your goals down. That's great, but there's a little bit more to it.
Like you're saying, the action piece. Yeah, that's, and kind of bringing everybody, if you're in an organization and you're having to talk with different teams, and you have a goal that you're responsible for, but you need to activate other team members. There's so many meetings that I've sat in on where the person, hey, everyone, we got to do this. And right off the bat, you've lost half the group because we need a little bit of extra context. I sit in a completely different seat. You might be engineering focused. I might be more numbers based. So can we all, let's get on the same page at the beginning, then let's talk a little bit into kind of the nitty gritty of, okay, what exactly needs to be done here? So I think that's such great advice as well. And another impressive milestone for you, you are a founder. So how have you applied the S.M.A.R.T, I should say the G.O.A.T method, right? How have you applied the G.O.A.T method to your own endeavors?
Yeah. And, I find myself, what I love about this is you can apply it to any goal that you want. I find myself, and especially the other, matter of fact, the last one, which is talk, the G.O.A.T method, the way we talk, not to others, but to ourselves. We do this. We are our worst enemy. And I'm still guilty of this myself. And I think, I've got to practice what I preach. And it's hard. Imposter syndrome is real. Sometimes we think we're not good enough. And, or when we fail at something, we just assume, well, I'm a failure. No. Failure is an event, not a person.
Yeah.
And I think it was, let's see, I'm trying to think, Thomas Edison, I can't remember. Anyway, there's a quote out there somewhere that says, you only fail when you stop. And it's true, because any other time you're learning maybe what didn't work. And going back to Thomas Edison, listen, if he gave up after about the third or fourth try of trying to invent the light bulb, I'm telling you, if that was you or me, we'd be sitting in a dark room, right?
You're telling me we would just have candles all over us.
And so, and going back to working with organizations, and just talking about getting on the same page.
Yeah.
I was speaking at an organization literally just last week, and there was a group of about 200 people. And so I had a little prize there, wasn't nothing extravagant. And I said, who can tell me what the mission statement of the company is? Sounds pretty simple, right? I mean, you would think everybody would know that. Summer, I'm telling you, the CEO didn't even know it.
Yeah, that's the comms department's job.
Yeah. So it's so important. Goal setting is important, but more importantly, it's not goal setting. Anybody can set a goal. We've been doing that since childhood. It's goal implementation or goal achievement. I think most people, here's your soundbite for you. Most people fail at achieving their goals because they focus on the result instead of the process.
Wow.
Think about it. If we start focusing instead of the result, I want to lose weight, I want to lose weight, I want to lose weight. Instead, we focus on the process. I need to, eat healthier, and here's the meals that I need, and maybe get some physical activity. And I focus on this, the result will happen automatically. And so we got to shift that. So what I've literally done with the G.O.A.T method is I just flip that upside down.
That's awesome. And you're so true. I mean, I mentioned earlier, I got married this year. You want to look your best. Thank you so much. It has been such a blimp. You know what I mean? Like you get married and then all of a sudden everything is back to normal. But you want to look your best, feel your best. Like I said, the nails, whatever. So at the beginning of the year, my fiance, now husband, we were like, we want to get in shape. We just kept saying it. We want to get in shape. We had the timeline. May was when we were getting married. We had the loose goal. We want to get in shape. But then once we started, like nothing was happening until we said, every Sunday, let's sit down for 30 minutes and think about what do we need to change in our week. How many times do we want to go to the gym this week? Okay, now let's put it in our calendar. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. How many times do we want to eat home this week? Okay, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. How many times do we want to go out and have a drink? Maybe once or twice. Cool, let's reserve that. And it's worked. So I can only imagine applying that and kind of having that mindset. Like you're saying, it's a mindset shift. It's not about the result, because I think that's a lot of times when people get burnt out. You're just so focused on the result. It's not going to happen overnight. So you're either getting frustrated or you're giving up. So I can only imagine this mindset shift, if it works so well with big personal goals, I can only imagine what it does for, organizations or entrepreneurs like yourself. So I'd love to hear a little bit more from you, because we do have listeners out there that are interested in kind of pursuing their own entrepreneurial endeavor. So I'm just curious if you can give us a little bit more of your experience in that field. Hey everyone, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. If you haven't already, why don't you take a second to click follow or subscribe on the platform you're tuning into so that you won't miss a second of Badasses in Tech. Also, if you're really loving what you're hearing today, why don't you drop us a 5-star review or leave us a positive comment, as it really helps the podcast grow and helps us continue doing what we're doing, which is helping people become a badass.
Yeah. So, wow. Again, this is another $1 million question. So COVID hit and really disrupted the entire world.
Yeah.
And people no longer need speakers during that time as much. They went virtual.
Right.
I have no problem. I love interviews on podcasts, so please don't take this wrong.
I won't.
But I'm an in-person kind of guy.
Me too.
It kills me to stay on this frame. It really does.
Yeah.
I've got a ton of energy. It kills
me. I can
me.
see we're like trying to reach through the screens.
Yeah.
Like both of us are the same. So I completely understand.
If they tie my hands, I will be silent. Yes. And so COVID hit, and I was basically the breadwinner of the family. So you got to get creative. So I took one day and I thought, wow, this really stinks. We can't get assistance because of the way the job is. Anyways.
Right.
So I went out and started 2 separate businesses. I started a home inspection business because people are still buying houses. Yeah. Nobody's in the house at the time. So that makes perfect sense.
Right.
But I was only doing that about once or twice a week. Now you have to understand, in home inspection, at least in Oklahoma, it's about $400 each time. So that's not bad money.
No.
But I still had a lot of downtime. And I thought, well, what else are people really concerned with? Or, and I thought, I could start a carpet cleaning business. And so I started a carpet cleaning business.
Nice.
Now that COVID has surpassed us for the most part.
Yeah.
I have sold both of those businesses for a profit. The thing about starting a business, going back to the goals, because I know a lot of your listeners are entrepreneurs, you've got to have a process. Take a day, take a week, a month, doesn't matter. You've got to figure out what it is that you want to achieve. You've got to go through this system. You just have to. It's irrefutable. Figure out what is your goal. Now, a lot of people, especially younger people, myself included, when I was looking at doing different things, I want to make a lot of money. Well, you've got to find your passion. I believe that your passion will be directly connected to your talents. I truly believe it, and I've always believed in this, that everybody has separate skills and talents. And your passion, what you're designed to do, will be directly tied to what you're best at. Don't try to force it. And so take an inventory. What are the things that you're good at? What do you enjoy? Now, I'm not saying you don't need to take advice from other people. Of course you do.
Absolutely, yeah. Going back to that learning piece.
Yes, but don't get caught up trying to live somebody else's dream. How many times does a student out of high school, out of college, and they say, well, my dad is a lawyer, so I guess I'll go to law school. Well, what do you really want to do? Well, I really want to be an artist. Okay, well, maybe your talents aren't in law. Maybe it's somewhere else. You've got to figure that out. Once you figure out your passion, and really what you want, then you can figure out how to make an income off of it. And we live in a great time. We live in my opinion, the greatest time of all history. You can make money literally sitting in your living room right now.
There you have it.
So the sky is the limit. We are our worst enemy. We shouldn't limit ourselves. We've got to figure that out. But once we figure out what it is we want to do, go through the system. Okay, what obstacles am I going to see? Who do I need to surround myself with? What skills do I need? And then we follow the method. And so when I work with businesses, usually, or an organization, they have one giant goal, and we get everybody going towards that goal. But when I work with individuals, it varies. And that's what I love about this system, is that it doesn't matter. If you follow this system and just plug in your information, it will give you a map of how to get there.
Awesome, Mike. So tell us a little bit more about your experience kind of jumping into this founder role.
Yeah. So I saw a huge need. Again, love helping people reach their goals. And so I literally just kind of compiled and put together everything that I knew. I had an office. So it really started in hypnotherapy, even though we're not supposed to call it hypnotherapy now. They say you're not a licensed quote unquote therapist. It's a hypnotist. A little bit different. It's just a legal thing.
I've always wanted to be hypnotized.
Even to this day, I still do a lot of proms and project graduations. It is a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
A little bit of a backstory. I actually had a show in Branson as a hypnotist out there. I did that for a summer.
Wow.
But anyways, so I founded this company, basically in a nutshell, and I've got several different little programs. I don't really advertise them so much, but one is it goes to the school systems. It helps them with at-risk students, stress management, classroom management. And then the one that I'm probably the most passionate about going into the schools is U.A.T. Kids today, students, I apologize. Let me say students today, they have more pressure on them than ever before.
Yep.
And with that, I believe the educators, the administrators, your teachers, they have more pressure on them than ever before. Growing up, when you and I was growing up, if we got in trouble, they would take us to the office and we would get licked. You would get swats. Right. Today, if they do that, they're going to get sued.
Yeah, you can't even think about that.
It's the truth. And so we live in a different time, and the world is evolving at a rapid pace. And so the best we can do is try to keep up. So I founded the company. I've actually got 3 others that go around teaching with me. They do their own thing. We're not all together at the same time because I want to reach as many people as I can. That's my goal. I have a passion in, I don't know if it shows across the video or not. I love when people achieve their goals. That is my purpose in life. And I will do anything that I can to make sure that happens. And it's just been my livelihood, my passion since literally 2001. Of course, we had a few little sidetracks here and there, and I did it part-time for a while. I was actually a police officer as well for a little bit, but I always have fallen back to this. And it's just,
Yeah. Well, we need more mics in the world, if you ask me, because your passion is definitely coming through. And I would even say it goes beyond, what'd you say, 2001?
2001, yeah.
I think it goes beyond, because if you think about what we talked about at the beginning and what you just said to, kind of your advice to whether they're entrepreneurs or professionals, finding your passion, you're not going to do yourself any favors if you're following what your mom and dad want you to do, being a lawyer, and you want to be an artist. When you and I talked at the beginning, you opened up with this beautiful story about how you wanted to help. You wanted to help your mom. You wanted to find out more about what goes into behavior, what goes into behavior changes. Then, you're talking about all of these other great skills and services that you provide with the, what did you say? You said not to call it hypnotherapy. The
a lot of people, it started out as hypnotherapist. That was the big term when I went through it. Now they've come out and said, you're just a hypnotist.
Right.
But here's the thing, and your listeners may be curious, because when you say the word hypnosis or hypnotist, a lot of flags go up. I'm not going to say it's bad, but a lot of flags start going up. Listen, hypnosis or a hypnotist, doesn't matter.
Right.
It's a tool. That's all that it is. It's a tool. It's not a tool for everybody.
Right.
Neuro-Linguistic Programming. A lot of people's heard that. Life coaching. These are tools. And to build a house, you need access to a lot of different tools.
Yeah.
And so that's all that it is. And so using the process that I've laid out, you're more than welcome to use any tool that you want. But here's the map. And one thing else I wanted to mention too, going through the G.O.A.T model, and I really want your listeners to pay attention to what I'm about to say. because I don't know where they're at. You never know where somebody is at in their own journey. The O stands for open-minded. And I elaborate, I go into that in great detail in my seminars, of course. But do you know what was, how can I say this? What was the event, I should say, that happened on, let me see, December 16th, 1903. Do you know what was going on that day? What was popular? What was the big event? And I'll tell you right now, there's actually, it does get taught, but not in the way that I'm going to share it with you. December 16th,
I'm just going to save myself the embarrassment and defer to the expert.
Well,
I'm not a history girl.
No. And I've never had anybody get this, so don't feel bad. On December 16th, 1903, the world believed it was impossible to fly.
Oh, yeah.
Guess what happened on December 17th, 1903? The world discovered it was possible to fly.
Right.
The first flight took place. The reason I use that story, as silly as that is, but it is factual, you've got to know it's possible. Yeah, a lot of people use the story of Roger Bannister, when he broke the 4-minute mile. Up until that point, nobody thought it was possible. But the moment he broke it, just 2 months later, somebody else broke that time because they knew it was possible. So for all your listeners, you've got to be open-minded and understand, more than likely, whatever your goal is, somebody else has already done it. More than likely. Unless you're Elon Musk. I mean, he shoots for the moon, literally. No matter what you do, somebody else has done it. You've got access to the information. It's just a matter of taking the action, learning the skills and knowledge, and following the path. But you got to know it's possible.
I love that. And I have a few more questions for you before we wrap. You mentioned a few different endeavors. So you mentioned the home inspection business. You mentioned the carpet business. You mentioned being a policeman.
Yeah.
I don't see that as, oh my gosh, Mike had no idea what he wanted to do. Like some people kind of think like, what an unusual path. So can you describe a little bit to me and to our listeners, like why that's okay, and maybe some of the learnings that you learned along the way? Like what about being a police officer was like, okay, this is great. I've learned what I needed, but I know that this is not my passion. I know that this in particular is not for me.
Absolutely. So sometimes we get hungry and our passion isn't going to feed us right then. That's just the truth of the matter. Let's face it. Sometimes our pride gets in the way of our success. We say, well, I'm not going to go flip burgers. I'm not going to do this. You're going to get hungry. Sometimes you got to eat crow, what we say here in Oklahoma. You got to do the jobs that nobody else will do so you can have the results nobody else gets. So, coming out of college, my degree was actually in criminal justice. And because, again, fascinated with the mind, I wanted to be a criminologist. I wanted to understand why criminals did the things they did. I didn't realize that you don't start out doing that straight out of college. So I became a police officer, and I was so grateful that happened, because being just a regular street cop, I would see people that seemed, that they were in poverty. They seemed like they were stuck in their situation. And the saddest part was it was generational. I saw firsthand, even though over here I'm still helping people part-time, I'm seeing this generational mindset of, I can't do better. I don't deserve better. And so that still would eat on me. And so in 2013, I started doing this full time. COVID hits a few years later. I get hungry and we got to eat. So what I really find fascinating, going back to open-minded, one of the ways to overcome being closed-minded is we have to start thinking, how can I? Robert Kiyosaki talks about this in his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We are lazy by design. We just are. And the brain is extremely lazy.
It's all for survival.
It's all for survival. You're exactly right. That's why we always see negative situations, because that puts us in survival mode. But when we start asking questions, the brain hates not being able to answer a question. Caroline Leaf has a great book called Switch on Your Brain. There's another book, Noah St. John, I believe, has The Power of Affirmations, which is all about asking questions. And it really is true. When you ask yourself a question, you have to get creative. So I'm basically out of a job when COVID hits. I think this stinks, but I ask, what can I do? How can I, rise above this in this moment? And I was like, because when you're put in a situation like that, you truly figure out what you're made of. And so I've been able to take those experiences and share it with people just like your listeners. Listen, it's possible. You have to understand you can do it, and you will surprise yourself at what you can do.
Absolutely.
You just got to trust yourself.
I love that. And you're so right. I mean, going back to the question I asked and what you mentioned earlier about failure isn't a failure. It's a learning opportunity. And you kind of go through, and going back to the survival concept, like everyone wants to be able to pay their bills.
Wow.
When you're starting out, at least for me, when I was starting out in my career, the job that I was getting, the job that I was offered was not the, biggest, best job out there. I wasn't like jumping for joy every single day, like, oh my gosh, I love this job. But it was getting me the meal. It was giving me the stepping stones that I needed. Fast forward to, a decade or so, and I kind of found myself in a position of, I love what I'm doing. I love what I do. I love the nature of what I do. I love talking to people. I love storytelling. I love creative projects, but I'm feeling stuck. Like I'm getting paid. I'm getting this paycheck, and like, is that my only motivator? Or can I take a step back, be open-minded, and really think, okay, what am I passionate about? I have some skills. I have some experience now. Can I go and create my own my own success? Or can I be a little bit more selective about what it is that I really want? And if it wasn't for my journey and a little bit of similar to you, kind of like the weaving road of that journey, I'm so grateful for it, because I don't think I would have been able to learn all of the lessons that I learned, and most importantly, gain the confidence in myself to go and start something completely, on your own. And of course, going back to the surround yourself with people and how we're so trained to take everyone else's opinions for face value, like take everything to heart. At least I do. I used to. I don't really care as much anymore. Still always obviously care about people's opinions, but I found that it was something that was holding me back. I have to make money. My family would think I'm crazy if I start this whole thing on my own, and they did. But if I listened to them, I wouldn't be happy anymore. Like, I'm so happy. I'm so confident in myself in more ways than I ever thought I would be. I'm doing things that I never thought I could be doing, especially from my living room, like we talked about. So there's something so beautiful, I think, about allowing yourself to go through the motions and being open-minded, and also listening to your gut, listening to that like nagging voice. I'm sure kind of through your journey, I'm sure you were continuously pulled back to, but am I helping people? But am I helping people? So whether we hear it or not, we have all the answers inside. We just have to listen to it. At least that was my experience.
No, you're spot on. And I think you hit the nail on the head, really. We have to realize, a phrase, going back to the open-minded, that I tell everybody, it's really helped me probably more than anything else. And it's something that I tell myself, because I'm a perfectionist. Before I do anything, I want it to be perfect. But probably in the last 4 or 5 years, I've adopted this phrase. And it's real simple, but I'm a work in progress. And so the way that I look at that You can criticize me and say, well, I really don't like this on your website, or I really don't like this, or that's okay because it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
When I think I'm completed with something, that's when my feelings are going to get hurt. So, and for your listeners, I think one of the most important lessons that anybody can learn and good time management technique is learn to say no. You got to learn to say no. Because again, other people are going to give their opinions. They're going to say what you should do or shouldn't do, but don't be afraid to say no. You can respect their opinion and their ideas and learn from that, but you don't necessarily have to follow it. It's your life. It's, I think we're all living the dream, but sometimes it's somebody else's dream and it can be your nightmare. And the only way to feel fulfilled is to live your passion.
I love that. Yeah. And a lot of people will put, as you know, I'm speaking to an expert. When people put their opinion or throw their opinions out, it's based on their fears. Like it's based on their fears, their opinions, their wants, their needs. So it is so. And when you're young in your career or a student trying to find that first job, it's a delicate dance because you want to impress your manager or your boss or your the person that's hiring you. So you kind of do, you don't, it's hard to say no. It's hard, at least my experience, like it was so hard to say no. And I think not knowing how to say no, like that should be taught in school. Like where we have math and social studies and history, like boundaries should be a course as well.
Yes. Well, and that's the thing. Because here's the thing, as an entrepreneur, everybody's going to try to have their hand in your pocket too. Understand that. They're going to say, you need this, you need to do social media this way, you need this program, you need this. You have got to have those boundaries. And that's why it's so important to have that mapped out for you. What do I really need to be successful? And what do I not? And saying no, like you said, I think that's something that should be taught in school, how to have those boundaries. And I think that's why a lot of people, because they get overwhelmed because we do have an abundance of information out there.
Right.
We get overwhelmed. We don't know what to do or where to go. And so that's why it's so important to step back and look at it. Because, and you said it yourself, we've already got the answers within ourselves. We just need somebody to ask us the right questions to bring those out. And that's kind of what I try to do with people.
So when you're giving advice to folks who maybe are looking for jobs, folks who have been laid off, there's a lot of layoffs, unfortunately, or folks who maybe they're in kind of an organization and wanting to try something new or take a leap of faith. What's some advice that really resonates with them based on some of the conversations or some of the talks that you've given recently?
So advice, I try my hardest not to give advice. I would rather ask questions. Again, they have the answers.
Oh, I love that.
But understand, get pride and ego out of the way first and foremost. If you just got laid off, you got to eat. You got to eat. So we've got to get pride and ego out of the way. Now, that job will take you 8 hours a day or whatever the agreement is. But what you do with the time after that, that's your time. And you can start building your dream with that time. But you got to eat. And so, in that time, go ahead, get your job, whatever you need to do to survive. But now, as an entrepreneur or whatever your dream is, start figuring out where your passion is. Talk to other people. And I think there's a lot of power in just asking questions yourself. Right. Find other people, find mentors, talking about that circle of influence, people that's already doing what you want. One thing that I've found, and I'm trying to think, it's in Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. One of the 6 ways to get somebody to like you, which is phenomenal, is they need to feel important, is for you to make them feel important. So one of the 6 ways, I highly recommend everybody memorizing that. And one way to do that is to ask somebody a question. Because when you ask a question, you're basically telling that person they have knowledge that you don't have. Right. Most people, not everybody, but most people will give you information willingly. You just have to ask.
Right.
And so I deal with a lot of people that's mid-level managers in different positions. And they say, how can I get a raise? Well, you're asking the wrong person.
Right.
I can't
You
give
tell
you that
me.
raise. But you
Yeah.
ask your boss,
Yeah.
and it's the craziest thing. It's like a light bulb goes off. And like, I never thought about that.
I can
And I
ask
said,
that question?
Yeah. Ask them, what skills and knowledge do I need so I would be available, or a good option when a promotion comes along? And it's like their mind is blown. And I say, but they're the ones that hold the keys to your future, whatever organization that is. Just ask them. And so if you're wanting to start any type of business, find somebody that's doing it. Reach out to them. The worst they're going to do is tell you no. And that's not that bad. You can't be afraid of the no.
It's not a failure. It's just a learning point, like we've been
It's-
talking about.
Yes.
Wow, Mike. So number one, I feel like you should create like a book list. I'm gathering that you're an avid reader. I love to read as well. You've dropped like 12 different books, so we're gonna have to link those somewhere. I'm definitely gonna have to check out a few of them as well. It's been so wonderful talking to you. It's been an honor talking to you and learning from you. I'm curious, what's next for Mike? We've talked all about kind of your career or your journey from now to then. What's next?
So literally, I'm in the process. So I've got an online course now. So I still speak. My speech is called Beyond S.M.A.R.T. Okay, we've been talking about that. Takes a little bit more. So Beyond S.M.A.R.T. is my keynote. I still travel given that. I do workshops on how to achieve your goals for all kinds of organizations, individuals. Love doing that. Got an online course they could sign up for. But what's next? And this is what's next. I am starting because I love working with what I call emerging leaders. I love that term. But where I see a huge need is within the high schools and the college markets. And so I'm literally starting a course, creating a course rather, that will target them specifically because I think they need to know the next steps going into the workforce and how, like what we're talking about today, what do they need to look for? How do they need to look for it?
Yeah.
And we sparked some ideas talking today. So I've been over here kind of taking notes as well.
Oh, good.
Yes. I'm always learning. I'm a work in progress. So,
aren't we all?
My, it truly is. It's been my calling. I want to help people reach their goals and not only reach their goals, but to achieve their goals. And so any way that I can do that, I'm always open to ideas.
I love that, Mike. And I'll definitely be looking into ways to check out all of that material.
Yes.
And like I said, the book list. Where can my listeners follow you? Where can they find you?
It is hard to catch. It's real simple. It's G.O.A.T. Matter of fact, I think it's right up. Let's see, right?
It is.
There, yes. So G.O.A.T.method.com. And they can find me there. You can email me from there. I think my cell phone number is even on there because I want to be accessible. I know that's crazy. So please don't blow my phone up all day, every day. But I do. I want to be accessible for people. I want to be there because, in life, I think a really good quote that I heard not long ago, and I don't know your listeners' belief systems, but I'm going to say this either way.
Yeah.
God didn't give us an extra day on earth because we need it. God gives us an extra day on earth because someone needs us. And so
that brings tears to my eyes. Honestly, I haven't heard that before.
Yeah. And that really changed everything for me. We are here. You are here for a purpose. God's gift to man is skills and talent. Man's gift back to God is how he uses them. So I think everybody has specific skills and talents. And I think our mission is to discover. Mine is to help people achieve their goals. And so I want to be accessible for that. Reach out to me. You can schedule a discovery call with me. Let's hash it out. Let's figure it out because I truly do. And that's what brings me joy in life is seeing other people succeed.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you can tell how passionate and knowledgeable and caring and, and friendly, like very easy to talk to. I could see somebody really being open, having no problem being open with you. So what you're saying, the passions and the talents, you're putting them to use.
Thank you. Thank
someone upstairs is very proud. Got to say that.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you so much for having me on this.
You've been listening to Badasses in Tech. This original content is brought to you by Growth Stack Media. If you're eager to take your brand or business to the next level through podcast creation, video production, or public relations support, we've got you covered. Visit growthstackmedia.com today to book a free consultation, or feel free to reach out through our contact details listed in the show description. That's all for today, but stay tuned for more exciting episodes on the horizon. Until then, I'm Summer Mitchell, and this is Badasses in Tech.